What is going on, guys, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at, in my opinion, the best support in Dota 2. Position 4, let me state that right away, not position 5. I think Invoker brings so much to the table, and in this video we're going to be breaking down the pros and cons of support Invoker. So first of all, the pros. You have such a large toolkit of spells to use at your disposal. The more levels you have, the more stronger these spells will get, so you're really just reliant on XP. So you definitely have to focus on getting the Lotuses and the XP runes, as they're very important for a hero like Invoker, who has a lot of mana issues early on, as your EMP doesn't return the mana even if you land it early on. You need enough levels to cover the cost of the spell plus Tornado or Cold Snap to set it up. So it's something you definitely need to take a look at. I usually rush Urn or at least the Ring of Bassi just to try and sustain the amount of Cold Snaps and Tornadoes I'm going to be throwing out until EMP is at a good level where I can get my mana back for landing it, and Tornado will have a decent range, because early on level 1 Tornado doesn't really go too far, so you definitely have to cast it not point blank but a little bit away, and usually use it to secure range creeps if your offlaner can't do that. Another thing you can do on Invoker is you can rotate quite easily, as Cold Snap is such a good spell. If you have a mid laner like Ember or somebody who has catch, you can Cold Snap Tornado them, lock them into place, and get an easy earn charge for yourself as long as you have the mana for it. So this hero really revolves around the XP and the mana. So if you get those two under control, you're going to be getting a shit ton of value from a support hero. And when it comes to the late game, there's honestly almost no better support in the game that can do better than Invoker, as you can start building core items. You can split push very easily without putting yourself in too much danger, as you have Ghost Walk, you have Tornado, you have Deafening Blast to disarm them and get away even if they have dust. You have a lot of ways to get away from the enemies. You can ice wall them and then meteor, and you're going to be doing a lot of damage. You could even turn a lot of plays once you have Urn and you cast these spells. The only problem early on is that you can't really invoke spells fast enough, so I highly don't recommend you guys take points in Exor early on. I would definitely recommend you guys to at least take 3 points in Quas, 3 points in Wex, and then if you really feel like your team kind of needs that damage, or you want to lock in a Sunstrike even though it doesn't really do too much damage early on, you can definitely go for that and take the one skill point. It's not going to do you too much harm, but at least 3 points in Quas Wex, you will be fine, and you will be getting a lot more value out of it, as your EMP is going to be burning a whole lot of mana. And that's another thing, most heroes in the game really depend on mana for their spells. So in a team fight, if you land a 1, 2, or 3 man Tornado with an EMP combo and you burn their mana pool, their fight is really bad, because they're at a huge disadvantage as they don't have the mana pool. And if they're not carrying a stick or anything like that to get their mana, or nobody's running mana boots, you're going to be doing a lot of damage. So this is very good against heroes like Leshrac, Ogre, mostly spell casting heroes that really depend on their mana pool and have no passive abilities, so they're practically useless if they're burned out of mana. Now let's talk a little bit about the cons. So the cons is this hero does drain a lot of XP from your offlaner. Now this cannot work with every single offlaner out there, as a lot of offlaners need some solo XP, because they also depend on having their spells up and early and get a lot of value from maxing out their spells early on. So you definitely have to keep in mind when you are picking this hero. You can definitely pick it into every game as long as your offlaner is cool with you sapping all the XP. You can definitely make a lot of rotations as well, but like I said, you really depend on your mana pool. So with the changes to the mangoes and the clarities, that does hinder you a little bit, so you kind of have to rush the Ring of Bassi to be able to sustain. At the same time, this hero does take a little bit of farm as well, so you will be taking some creep waves here and there with your meatball, but you can definitely do that very safely, so it's definitely not the worst con. Another con I'd like to say is that this hero is really squishy in the early game, so he can definitely be punished quite easily by heroes like Anti-Mage, Spirit Breaker, Lion, Witch Doctor, heroes like that do a lot of burst damage and not just very light poke, because if it's poke, you have so much regen from Quas that you will be doing just fine, especially if you have tangos in the lane. It is so much regen that all you need to do is just walk away from the fight for a little bit, and you're going to be gaining a ton of regen, and you'll be able to be fight ready within a few seconds. So that's honestly very good. Very few supports have as much base regen as Invoker with Quas. It's a really big benefit to the hero. And in the late game, once you have Cataclysm, if you have a Void, you can definitely get very greedy. I wouldn't say you can get a Midas on support Invoker, as that's pretty much griefing. You can buy pretty much any item in the book. You can get a pipe, you can get Guardian Greaves to really help with your mana issues early on. Mana boots are definitely not bad. side if you do not need the urn. It's just urn is just such a really good tool for Invoker to have, as you can set up with cold snap, and it's going to proc it all the time, so it's going to be really good. Your tornado is honestly one of your best tools. It's one of my favorite tools on Invoker, as when you see a hero with double damage, you really don't give a crap. You just cast tornado, make sure you land it, and it's going to dispel them, so you really don't care about that, and it'll dispel practically anything. So it's a very important tool for you to have in your arsenal and not to be misused, as early on the cooldown is kind of long, and so is EMP, and it really does cost a lot of mana, so you need to make sure you're going to be using it in the right situation and that you won't need it for the rest of the duration of the cooldown. So you got to be very smart with your spells, especially on the support Invoker, as the cooldowns are long and it takes a long time to invoke, as you are not getting as much levels as you are in the mid lane. So you definitely got to keep that in mind. No matter how quick you can click your orbs, there's still the cooldown on invoke, so definitely prioritize having the spells you already need ahead of time of what you're going to need. That way you can only invoke one spell and you will be fine because you have your other spell already set up. That's usually what I like to do. If I see that I'm going to be ganking, I will have my cold snap EMP if it's a hero that doesn't have a lot of mobility, and if it's a hero that has mobility, then I will have my tornado EMP and cast cold snap as soon as they hit the ground, and you're going to be getting a lot more kills than normal, and this hero's skill ability is one of the best in the game. Definitely let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about support Invoker. If you guys agree, definitely let me know. I know a lot of players are not going to be on board with this because they feel like other supports are more casual, much easier to play. But if you are an Invoker player, you can get so much more value on this hero than, say, a Lion or a Witch Doctor or something like that, because this hero can pretty much affect the map consistently and can do a lot more things on a much shorter cooldown, and that can affect a lot of heroes. Say EMP is AoE, Meatball has a pretty big AoE, Sunstrike is a pretty decent control tool if you have the right lockdown for it. Ice Wall is one of the biggest slows in the game if landed correctly. It's a hard spell to land, but it's definitely very good. You have Ghost Walk on a pretty long cooldown, but it's still a free invis. This is the only hero in the game that has this many spells at his disposal, so as long as you have the right amount of regen, you can be a menace on the map and do much more work than any other support in the game. But I'd definitely like to know your opinion. This is my favorite support in the game. It doesn't have to be yours. I would like to know in the comments, what is your favorite support in Dota 2, and what do you guys think is something that you can pick every single game and still get a ton of value? In my opinion, it's Invoker, but I would definitely like to know from you guys. That way we can get a discussion going in the comments. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.